Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not really going to make anything, and I'm not really going to do anything. I'm just going to show you some stuff. Some seed starting stuff. And while I'm not an Amazon associate and I don't get anything if you click on a link, and nobody gives me any of this stuff, although I would take it if they offered, I'm going to post you some links in the info section to help you find this equipment and to do some comparison shopping in case you choose to use the system that I use to start seeds, because it works really well for me. And since I'm showing you stuff that I like, I'm going to show you this one. This is Wyatt James, 6 months old, great-grandson, named for Wyatt Earp and his Uncle Jim. And you can just feast your eyes on that while I tell you, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. You can click on the little bell at the top right to get notifications when I post new videos. I posted this photo in our gardening group, Debbie's Back Porch, today, and people had lots of questions, so I thought I would try to answer those questions all in one place. Most of the seed starting equipment I've been using runs around 10 years old, and the lights were getting faded and the plastic was popping holes. So I decided to go ahead and invest in some new equipment, and I'm still using some old equipment. If you're starting your seeds inside, probably nothing is more important than your light. And I have to tell you, a sunny window is really not the best place to start your seeds. Even good windows are likely to have temperature fluctuations. The light is rarely strong enough, it's never close enough. And in late winter, early spring, when you're probably starting your plants, the sun doesn't shine long enough. For years I used T5 lights or regular shop lights. But last year I picked up a couple of really cheap LED lights, and I was really happy with the results. So I did some research and I found the Root Farm LED light station. They cost $75 each. And that's a lot for me, but it was the cheapest set like this, built like this. But there's absolutely no reason you can't use shop lights, fluorescent lights, T5 lights, and I'm going to put a link to someone else's video in the info section to show you how to build a setup for the T5s or the shop lights, the regular fluorescents, for just a couple bucks. It's a video I used and followed several years ago, and it works just great. Now these lights come with telescoping sides, and they have quite a few of the LED lights in here. Downside is you can't really replace a bulb that goes out. You have to get a whole new light setup. And I found that it doesn't go low enough to get really close to your plants when they first germinate. So you have to set your tray on something to get it close enough to the light. Being close to the light is important. What I'm showing you here is a little plant heat germinating mat that came with my setup. There'll be a link to that in the info section. And back to the light. But it does telescope up high enough that when the plants start to get big, I can still use these lights. If you look over to the right, you'll see that I have that tray setting up on something to make it higher. It's still not high enough. I'll have to prop it up a little higher. Now I'm going to show you this tray. The brand name is Jumpstart, but there are dozens of different brands. It's just little circular cells with holes in the bottom. This is a bottom watering system. Now this is just a standard size tray, nursery tray, and these fit down in it. Any or all of these parts can be bought separately. I got this particular one because it came with the heat mat and I needed a new heat mat, so I got it all at one time. These are the sponges that I use. There are many brands of this type of seed starting medium. These are Viagrow. I buy whichever one is the cheapest. I'm trying to move the light a little here. But for me, the only thing in this seed starting setup that is not negotiable is that I use the little floating sponges. And while the brand may vary, the idea is the same. This is the kind of growing medium that folks use for hydroponic growing. And to me, the benefits are many. Mainly, you don't overwater. They're not messy. You don't ever get damping off. I've never gotten damping off since I started using these. They transplant very neatly into bigger pots. And you can buy any number of different kinds of trays that fit these. This is the same type of medium used in any of the AeroGarden inside growing appliances, but they're shaped differently. These are fatter. This is one of my old pieces of equipment, and it's kind of dirty, and it's 10 years old. And you can see my other tray is like this one, only bigger. The brand name on this one is Hydrofarm, although there are several other brands that are identical. You can get them from Park Seeds or from Gurney's, although I believe those are more expensive. This particular brand comes with 50 of the grow plugs already in it, the little sponges. So that's a significant savings right there. This one does not come with one of the tall domes over it, but I have several of those, and I want to start with the shorter dome, but you can see that the big dome fits on it also. These clear plastic domes that you can get, the purpose of them is to hold the humidity in and to create a hothouse inside. There are the shorter ones that you want to use when you start out, so that you can keep your light closer to the cells. And there are the taller ones that will fit over your transplants once you've put them into pots. And I'll show you how they work and why I think they're so great. This is just a standard size nursery tray. This styrofoam insert fits in, and you can see it has big holes in the bottom. It's just big enough to hold the sponges inside without going down into the water. I have this one sitting on a cigar box my son found for me, because as I said earlier, although this does telescope, even at its lowest setting, it's not quite low enough to rest on the very top of the starter tray. In my experience, about 90% of the seed starting failures that folks have are because the light is not close enough, it's not bright enough, and it isn't on long enough. Once your seeds germinate, they need 16 hours of light a day. They need the light as close as you can get it without touching them. And they need about 8 hours of darkness. And you can see from this that I need to raise my tray up a little bit since I can't lower my light anymore. I'm thinking bricks. Now there are other kinds of LED lights you can get that are way less expensive, and I'm going to use this old tray to start with. As I said, this is about 10 years old, and I still have some sponges in here from last season. Clean sponges, I can use them again, I just have to rehydrate them. And this bottom tray sprung a leak, but it's a standard half size. The big one is a full size. I'm just going to try to move these lights over. And so I can buy another little tray to put the styrofoam insert down into. As a matter of fact, the little Jiffy trays fit these perfectly. And I'll probably get another 10 years out of this little styrofoam insert, assuming I lived that long. Now what I'm showing you here is a different type of LED light, and I'll do some camera adjustment here in just a second. Now there are too many of these for me to even tell you a brand. They're cheap. They clip on the side of the table, and they have a little, let's see, I've got that stuck. Let me pull it over. They have a little control here that will let you shine 1, 2, or all 3 of the lights. This one has a USB connection, and my power source here has a USB connection. If you don't, then you can just plug it into one of those little wall adapters and plug it into the wall. So when you turn this on, it shines pretty darn bright, and I used this last year and had really good luck with it. I used it on this tray. I did turn the tray every day so that one day it was on it in one direction and the next day it was on it in another direction. This is really handy because the arm is flexible and you can move it around. So I'm going to start a few seeds just to show you how it works. And I have here water that it's tap water. You can buy bottled water if you want to, or you can use a water filter. I just fill up a quart jar and let it off gas for 24 hours, and then I use it, and I never have any problems. But your tap water may be different than mine. So I'm going to start 12 cauliflower here because it's really too early to start much of anything else. A quart was plenty because I only have 12 sponges in here. If you had filled the whole thing up, it might take a little bit more water, but I'll show you where this brings the water to on the sponges here in just a second. Some of the sponges are a little misshapen, but when they get fully rehydrated, they'll fluff up. Now you'll see that each of the sponges has a little hole in the middle, and this is where you place the seeds. The little seed holes don't go as deep as the water, so they're not directly in the water. The sponges wick the water up gradually so you don't overwater. I generally leave one cell empty so that I can see my water level. And I don't add any water until the water is down below the level where I can see it. And that takes all the guesswork out of when and how much to water. So I've got some broccoli seeds here. A pair of tweezers is very helpful at this stage. And I'm going to put 1 or 2 broccoli seeds in each cell. With tomato seeds, by the way, I put in just 1. If I have one that doesn't germinate after about 10 to 12 days, I'll come back and drop another seed in because the cell will still be fine. While I'm dropping these seeds, I'll tell you a little about the next steps. I can't show them to you today, but I will show them to you later. I'll make another video. When these little seedlings get their first set of true leaves, I'm going to move the sponge into a pot. There's very little root disturbance when you transplant these little sponges. You just hold the sponge with your tweezers and you fill in your potting soil or your seed starting soil around the sponge. Then I'll take the little pots and put them into another nursery tray, and I will set up one of these little flexible LED lights over them. They work really well for that because of the flexible neck. Another container that works perfectly for that, by the way, is your aluminum foil turkey roasters that come with the plastic lid that fits on top. I find that they actually work better than nursery trays because they will hold more of the little pots. And I have a variety of little pots, that I have accumulated over the years, but nothing works better for tomato transplants than solo cups with about 5 or 6 little holes drilled in the bottom. People used to laugh at me because after a function at work, I would go around with a plastic bag and pick up all the leftover solo cups. Take them home, run them through the dishwasher, drill some holes, instant transplant pots. Okay, the seeds are in, and I was talking to you, so I'm not sure how many seeds I put in each hole, but generally 1 or 2. I'm going to take this one out with the tweezers. I don't know if you can see where the water line is, but the bottom third is wet, and the top 2/3 is not. It's a little damp because it's wicking, but you're not going to overwater your seedlings this way. And I really don't think you can see that well, but I'm going to pull this other one out here, and as I say, I'm not sure you can see it, but in about 3 weeks or so, this little sponge will be covered in roots, and they'll just get bigger and bigger, and they will grow deep down into the water because they really are facing very few restrictions in their development. And I always use the white styrofoam insert for starting tomatoes, and I'm going to see if I can show you why. If you'll see, these holes are very open. There is nothing restricting the root development. It grows right down into the water, and then when you pull them out, they're not tangled. To me, the root development of the tomato seedlings is what determines a good crop or a mediocre crop. I hope you were able to find something helpful in this long rambling video. I will try to give you lots of helpful links in the info section. It's not my purpose here to talk you into buying expensive stuff for starting seeds. There are all kinds of ways to do this less expensively, and I tried to tell you a few as I went along. But let me urge you, if you only buy one thing, get a good light. If you have a good light and you keep it close enough, bright enough, long enough, you'll have success. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow when I think I'll probably cook something.